Welcome, Leah, to the podcast. This is such a huge treat.
It's a treat for me. It's always a treat to get to talk to you. It blows my mind open every time.
Thank you. Thank you. Same here. And, I was, saying before we started recording that, I follow you for lots of different reasons, but one of the big reasons I follow you is because you always have like your fingertip on the next thing that's happening. Like you are able to really feel into what's happening in the coaching industry, and you have a sense of what's next. What is the next trend? What is developing behind the scenes? You seem to have a knack for really feeling into that. So I want you to share a little bit more about that.
It's almost like I'm a strategist. No, but it's so funny. I'm an intuitive strategist. Like,
Yes.
first and foremost, it took me years to be like, I don't feel comfortable with like psychic, medium, or any of those weird things. But intuitive strategy
Yes.
is definitely what I do, and it's kind of sticking your toe into the deep waters of the collective consciousness and seeing what ick comes up. And then I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, so exposing the dark places
Yes.
is kind of like the whole reason that I'm here. And I feel like I've been warning people in the coaching industry that a reckoning was coming for a while.
You have.
And that, I feel like I'm somewhere. I was talking to my husband, who is I'm a cross between Noah and Harriet Tubman. I feel like that's like my energy all the time. It's like I'm just that crazy guy getting drunk by himself and building a boat, talking about it's gonna flood when it's fine outside, and everyone's like, whatever, bitch. Like, she's still building that boat, whatever.
And then they start screaming, and then you're like, come this way.
Yeah, and then it starts raining, and people are like, "So, how's that that boat you've been working on?" All right, I got spots for you. It's okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's a perfect description. And you have a way of using words. You're a word witch, and when I was in your coaching container, you really helped me to play with words and get creative with words. And yeah, I really appreciate that about you too. There's always this playfulness, this like edginess in how you express things that is so delightful too. But yes, like what are some of the trends that you see that you've been talking about? This reckoning, for example.
Yeah, well, the biggest trend is that it's not like winter is coming. Like, it's the long winter for the coaching industry right now. We had that period of time, like I'd say 5 or 6 years ago, when people are like, "You're a coach? What is that?" And people didn't understand what it was, and then everyone figured out what it was, and then a lot of people realized, oh, this is a highly unregulated space. And we got saturated with the bro marketers that came in and told us all the bro marketing stuff.
Yeah.
And then we got saturated with the kind of wave, the feminine coaching craze that came after that was kind of the balancing energy to the bro marketing, but they were both built quite precariously,
Yes.
on like a lot of privilege and a lot of access, and quite frankly a lot of bias, and a lot of charisma over substance.
Yes.
And it's just like this house of cards that has all come crumbling down. We had people captive in their homes for 18 months too.
Right. And people
so
were
people
selling.
saw these like inflated success rates because like we have a literal captive audience.
Yeah.
And everybody that had jumped off of social media suddenly found themselves back on it again. And so 2020, late 2020 and 2021 was like a renaissance for financially anyway, for a lot of people. And hopefully, well, maybe this will be the renaissance. Maybe it was whatever came right before the dark ages. Because I feel like now is like the dark ages of coaching, where like everyone's just dying. like it's just like a plague, just coaching businesses, boom, 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 like just dropping. Like it's like there's somebody with a big cart and it's just a bunch of people's coaching careers hanging out the back of it. It's so bad. We're, and I think it's a good thing in some ways.
Why so?
In some ways, it's a good thing. No, sorry, go ahead.
No, in what ways? In what ways? Yeah.
In some ways, it's a good thing because we are purging the excess. Right? The people, Lucy Lip Gloss, I call her, the girl who just got a blowout and some lip gloss and decided she's a coach now. And her basic marketing strategy is to, not through any necessarily deliberate maliciousness of her own, make everyone feel like if they could just be close to her for an exorbitant amount of money, then maybe they could be as successful as she is. And so this kind of culty, charisma driven, substanceless coaching, a lot of that is losing steam. But unfortunately, it's losing steam because all the people who could afford to invest put their money in these very baseless programs that weren't giving anybody people aren't leaving with real skills or tangible results. And sometimes not even with like life-changing transformation, because it doesn't have to be something you can touch, but people are realizing that they just spent 10, 20, $40,000 to feel like they're sitting at the cool kids table.
Right.
And now the sad thing is those charismatics are poised to be the people who survive because they have all the capital left. And the people who had real gifts that they want to get out in the world are now suddenly under-resourced to actually get their coaching businesses off the ground. So that's kind of that's the negative. So there's like a top, middle, and bottom way that it's impacting. The top is always fine, right?
Yeah.
That's why everybody's trying to scramble to get up there, because they have enough resources to ride out this dry period, to put all their money into ads and to try a whole bunch of different funnels and be the 1% that actually survives. And then the people who never had any real talent or any real motivation to begin with, they'll fall off because they're not making enough money to make it worth their while anymore. They'll move on to another scam.
Okay.
But it's the people in the middle that I'm really concerned about. People who did have talent, did have skill, did have motivation, and now they just can't afford to run their coaching businesses anymore.
And what I hear you saying is that people who were buying coaching packages before or entering programs and got burned are now much more reluctant. And they've been burned and they're reluctant to put their money down again.
There's a lot of actual trauma. There's a lot of investment trauma from people who are in the industry. And I think I try not to be a bitch. I don't really. I say that, but I try, but there's kind of, I think as a Black woman in the space, I feel a lot of I told you so. Because if we're really honest, the coaching industry has been a pretty privileged subsidy program. Like all the girls that didn't have the discipline to, or didn't have the temperament to finish whatever they were into, they kind of got into these charisma-based circles and they just rode on that. And a lot of times they said they were selling strategy, and what their strategy was access. I'm a person who has access to people with money, and I'm someone that makes them feel a certain set of emotions, and this makes them want to give me money. And when they give me money, I will show them how to get access. I will give them access to the platform that I have created. So I'm creating, like, it was this weird kind of pay to play.
Yes, there's sort of a fantasy. There's sort of this fantasy. It still feels a little bit like like the cool girls club, as you said, like this be in my energy, or to join the club, and people are wanting to, in that sense, escape who they are so that they can be someone else, instead of coaching, helping people be exactly who they are without having to change anything, right?
How can you teach what you don't know? Like if
Yeah,
identity
yeah,
foreclosure is the contingency for success, how are you going to teach someone how to be authentic? Like you can't, like
right.
you don't have
Yeah,
that.
right.
You don't have that to give someone.
Yeah,
And then it's like, why are all the coaches so similar? Why are all the programs so similar? Why is everything so overpriced? And I'm all for high ticket, by the way. Like I'm not down on high ticket. I love high ticket. I've done high ticket. I actually have plans to do even more high ticket. I'm raising my prices in 2023. I've been working on accessibility for 5 years. Anybody who didn't get it doesn't want it. And so I'm actually raising my prices. But I just think that there's the most lovely lie in coaching is that everyone has what it takes to be successful.
mm,
And that
mm.
if that were the case, then everyone would just be successful. It's this weird to me, it's like plantation propaganda. And I hate to, you always
Take
pull
it
out
there.
so much in me that I don't say to anybody else. I gotta stop talking to you. Talking to you in public forums. But there's this plantation propaganda, and it's like these privileged girls sitting up on a veranda, sipping tea and fluffing their dresses and
Yeah.
talking about how, what did somebody tell me the other day? Oh God, the divine doesn't hustle. Like everything is for lazy and everything is for ease and everything is for flow. And it's like, no, bitch, somebody else is just doing the work.
Yeah.
Like that's your model is coaching colonialism. Like you just want to show
Mm,
up and you know that people will pay you for your privilege, for the philosophy that you're upholding just by existing. And
mm.
that's kind of what you're teaching everyone, instead of like, maybe get uncomfortable, maybe getting into alignment means getting uncomfortable,
Yeah.
maybe doing actual work, maybe it means paying the people who do the actual work reasonable rates and wages for the work that they're doing, or like at least admitting that they exist. Because what I see is a lot of
Yeah.
solopreneurs wondering why they're not expensive, and they'll say to me some 7-figure coach's name. They'll say, so and so did it and she does it all organically, and so like I don't understand why it's not working. And I was like, saying that someone reached 7 figures organically is like saying Rick James died of natural causes.
God.
I mean, yeah, if the natural cause is if you do cocaine for 30 years that you die at that age, then yes, naturally that's what happens. If you mean that having a team, having messaging, having graphics, having massages, having access to healthcare, like if you mean that naturally the bitch hit 7 figures because she's got 100 people supporting her enterprise, then organically, yes, she achieved that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And people don't
You
talk.
can't compare yourself to her, and you're doing all your stuff on Canva and writing all your own copy and filming all your own content and posting all your own content.
Exactly. Like you're a coach, you're a videographer, you're a graphic designer, you're a copywriter, you're all the things. Yes.
As we all are. I am that person. Like I'm the person who does all the things, largely because even though I have a team, I still am a control freak. So that's another episode. But yeah, so it's just, I think that people are starting to see like the woman behind the curtain in all of
Yes.
these, and it's making them realize, oh, the reason you made 7 figures is because I was willing to pay you 5 or 6 just to be in your space. I mean, that's the secret.
Yes. Right. And so that's what makes it a little bit, not a little bit, a sort of a pyramid scheme, right? Where you're like, you're paying this one person all of this money, and they're able to outsource all of these tasks and thereby then make more money. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what was that guy they did the documentary on, the Tinder swindler
The
or
Tinder
whatever.
swindler. Yes.
Like
Yes.
it's 100% that. It's like taking Katie's money and using it to impress Tiffany. So you can take Tiffany's money and use it to impress Lauren. So you can take Lauren's money. Like it's 100% that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like you don't have to pay. This is where the bias piece comes in.
Yeah.
And I look at it in raising my own daughter and son for that matter. When I look at Disney movies, because I love it was interesting when I watched the Tinder swindler, the woman talked about the
That's right.
Disney.
I remember that.
She
Yes.
mentioned the Disney thing, and I always talk about this with building bias. In many ways, we have already been sold a number of different layers of fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when we find a fantasy that aligns with our pre-existing fantasies, it feels like truth.
Yes.
And we have been sold this image of this beautiful woman who is blonde and magical and is the answer to whatever is, the story will be fine as long as she's doing well. And so this makes us predisposed to see her doing well.
Yeah.
So when she shows up in our inbox and says, I have all the answers, just give me your money, it's not even a leap of faith. It feels like the truth.
Yes. Yes. And it really hits into the part of us that, I don't know, even as you're talking, I'm feeling that part of me that has been vulnerable to that, right? The part of me that wants to go, oh yes, like tell me the answers or show me the way, or just like almost like relieve me from this burden I'm carrying, from this, like from the uncertainty, or from this part of me that thinks it doesn't know things, or right, there's a vulnerability there that gets just like pinged, and then we're there buying it.
Yeah, I mean, I could make so much more money if I would just be a better liar. Like if I just stopped giving a shit about people, I would have. And I'm not saying that everyone who's making money is lying, by the way. There's a bunch of amazing, authentic, powerful coaches out there.
Yeah.
But you have to do the digging, and it has to be more than pretty packaging, and it has to be more than subtle dog whistles to specific
Yes.
economic levels, like
Yes.
the coaching
Yes.
hat, the wide brim hat mafia that is just like, oh, it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. I get it. You have money. And so you're telling the other people that have money that they should be working with you. I don't know. It's just humanity. It's not just the coaching industry. I mean, let's be fair. This is like the state of human vulnerability to charisma and our desire to be part of something larger, and sometimes our desire to avoid hard work and the fantasy of our own exceptionalism and all of those things. They just came to bear on the coaching industry. But I think the hope is that now that the flood is occurring, hopefully everything that's not rooted down will get washed away, and the people that are left will be able to replant and create something new for the rest of us. This is what I'm committed to, is not just, talking shit about the past, but creating some inroads to a better industry.
No, but what I hear you talking about, what I hear you addressing is like the leadership piece around how to show up as a coach, right? Or like how to show up as a leader in the coaching world, in your business, and that there has to be like this truth and congruency, like what you say is how you do, and vice versa. And that it's just like, you just like this, you said the flood washing away, that really spoke to me, because a lot of the shit is ungrounded. It's just ungrounded. And so it really is about like planting your feet on the earth, just getting to the unvarnished truth, just saying the fucking thing that needs to be said, and stop playing into people's fantasies and playing into people's, like, the fantasy of wanting to escape the grittier aspects of just being alive, you know. It's like, no, 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 no. Like, I was talking to one of my friends, and she was like, so what do you do? And I was like, I help people be with their shame and pain and their grief. This is what I do, right? I was like, yeah, I help people be in the really shitty emotions you don't want to feel, so that you can transmute them and, like, turn them into gold or something, like turn them into like nuggets. But we were just laughing about that because, like, yeah, that's the truth, and so a lot of times we don't say those things because, like, ew, people don't want to hear that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's so funny. I was walking my daughter around this morning before we got on this call because I'm trying to she's already a Scorpio with a Leo moon, so I'm trying to like de-princessify her. And she's living a different life than I lived at her age. Like she already has, she's like a full-time nanny. And that's like, oh, kids have nannies, but it's also like she has full-time staff. Like her nanny interacts with her like she is like she's an employee. So she's used to like, I need this, go to this. She's accustomed
Yes.
to being tended to in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so this morning we were walking around and we looked over our I don't know, it's like a veranda. We have an extended like L-shaped veranda, and there's a woman down in the rice field, and she had cleared all the flowers and she was digging in the dirt. This older Balinese woman, she gets up in the morning and she beats this board to scare the snakes out of the rice field. It's like this very
Yeah.
everyday, like we hear her out there scaring the snakes to get started for the morning. And so, we get up and we say hello to the day, hello to the elements and the rice field and to our neighbors and to the sky and all the things. And I was showing my daughter and I was like, do you see this? Over here we have the rice field, and over here we have someone digging with their feet in the dirt. If you want the harvest, you have to do the work. And so my daughter is just acquiring language. She's 1. But it's really important to me that she understands, if you want the harvest, you got to get your feet in the dirt and do the work.
Yeah.
Because like the world doesn't need, and I'm super all for the princess vibe. Like, me, I'm extra AF, like to the max. I can put crown into my Google photo search and I have to scroll through it. Like, it's fine. But like, I'm trying to get her past the princess and into her like empress vibes, like come up.
Right. And something that I've
Like,
always respected about you is that, is your, I entered your container to change my relationship with money, and it really worked. And something that like I said, something that I really admired about you is how, like, you say you're extra AF, and the way that you manage that extraness, and like you have staff, the way that you talk about treating your staff, and the way that you build relationships, like it's still relationship based. It feels very intimate. It feels like this redistribution of wealth. So I would love for you to talk just a little bit about that, because it really shifted for me the way I relate to money and the way I relate to extra AFness.
yes, that like, oh, I can't even tell you. Like, do you ever? I'm sure this happens to you because you change lives all the time too. That you like change lives, you just keep going like that didn't happen, and you forget that you're actually impacting people. So, thank you for even that moment of acknowledgement. My soul needed that. That was nourishing. Yeah, my goal in life is to help human society reorient its relationship to wealth.
Yes.
It's so funny. I just had this like, wealth is a woman. Like, that's the words that just came into my mind. And I'll have to sit with that and figure out what the universe fully means. But like, I feel like, and I'm going to take this back to the Bible. This is just because I'm from the South. So like, I can't get away from it. I have so many biblical references in my soul. The nature of delusion is to, like, the way it works is that it just twists the truth. And so like one of the reasons that I talk about like slavery or make references to it in my work is not just because like I'm Black and I'm fixated on slavery, but because our economic systems have been built on exploitation. And
Yes.
so like this is our relationship to wealth, that this is this concept of selling your soul, that in order to have enough, you will harm another, exploit another,
Yes.
because the scarcity is the basis of exploitation.
Yes.
Exploitation presumes that there is not enough. And so I have to have mine at the expense of you having yours. And so this is such a broken foundation. We can't build our businesses on that foundation. What if we can show that there is enough and then build from there?
Yeah.
So that means that, yes, I could charge $20,000 for a 10K program, or a program that I can easily make profit on and have it be 5K, because I've got to have so much more. Or I can offer all of my substanceless teachings at the 10K level and save it for the people who have 40K to tell them the truth of how they need to build their businesses. Or like all of these, relationships with, like, I love our nanny. Like she's helping me take care of like the most precious things I have, my family. Like she has her own family. We actually just like gave her a bonus this last week because my daughter is like up and walking, and she wasn't expecting that. We didn't tell her we were going to do that, but it was like we hit a milestone. We wouldn't have hit that milestone without you being there. So like I know what you want. And so I tell her all the time, I'm like, you take care of my children, I take care of yours. I was like, this is not a top-down relationship. We need each other, and I will always treat you like I need you because I need you.
Right. So this interdependence and reciprocity is a key piece.
And she's a businesswoman. She has her own other business. She has like her own children, her own family. She has her own aspirations, and I ask her for advice on all kinds of things. And I think this is like the relationship with women is very similar to the relationship with wealth, that we've been taught the only way we can have it is to exploit it.
Is to
and
possess it.
True.
Yeah.
If we would just hold it in reverence and wonderment, it would feel safe enough to give us the desires of our heart.
Yes.
And so yeah, in all ways and in all things, I'm trying to replicate and change that dynamic in every container I create, in every relationship I'm in, and try and just reaffirm it in my own heart all the time.
It's so interesting. You say you used your hands went out like this when you said give me the things that I want or something like that, but your hands were going out. And I think that exemplifies sort of in an embodied way what is happening here, is that you receive, you give, and you receive, right? There is this flow, just like you and I have talked about the flow of love, right? Like you give love, you receive love, and the person that you give love to, you're not necessarily going to get it back from them. It's not tit for tat, but it comes around in a way, right? Like, there is sort of like looking at the flow of money and the flow of love in the bigger collective, scope or realm or space.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so funny because sometimes I feel like, you feel powerless in the face of it all, the enormity of all of it. And like I said, I have been kind of building a boat for the last 2 years. I didn't realize, it's so funny. Like I'm such a talk therapy person. Like I think sometimes with the ADD, I forget that I've done things, or like that things are happening. And I'm like, oh, right, I did do that. That happens to me all the time with like our VA. And I'm like, you know what we should do? We should do blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you did that. It's over here. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. That's a good idea. So like, we knew this was coming for the coaching industry. We knew that it was going to, first off, the coaching industry and all of these online industries are a big threat to the status quo, because it frees people from the traditional ways of growing monetarily. And with the amount of content that has to be created, you have to have a lot of time, or you have to have a lot of money. And who has a lot of time? People with a lot of money. So it's very subtle ways. It's getting harder and harder to be successful as a solopreneur. as a coach. Like, if we aren't careful, we're going to get relegated to less and less of the market, because with what's happening with the algorithms and organic
Yes.
algorithms and the decrease in organic visibility, the only way to get ahead on a lot of the platforms is to be there constantly.
Hmm.
And if some of these platforms were a partner, they would be a toxic partner, because it's like, where were you today? You didn't
Right.
post 4 times. What
Yeah.
were
Pay
you
attention to
doing?
me.
Yeah, who are you with? Pay attention to me. And it's unhealthy. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
just come out and say, like, for mental
Yes.
health,
Yes.
it's not okay for that to be a requirement. When people have families and the businesses, like, what if you get all of this visibility? How are you going to serve those people? You got to make content 4 times a day.
Right. Right. Yeah.
How the hell is that supposed to work? Right. So it's
Yeah.
a really subtle way of, like, stemming the ability of certain types of people who have the power to create real change. And so the boat that we've built is our Actualization agency,
Yeah.
which is a group of solopreneurs coming together to create something that's, like, greater than the sum of our parts.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's been really interesting having the experience of trying to put a bunch of entrepreneurs who, let's be frank, they don't play well with others. That's why they work for themselves. Like, into a shared space. It's
Yeah.
teaching me a lot about human nature, for sure.
Wow. And so what is your solution, as much or as little as you want to share, about like how to remedy this mining of attention that happens on the platforms, on the social media platforms?
Well, I mean, our solution has been to create community. So I've been talking about content creation a lot this year, and
Yes.
earlier you and I were talking about, like, sometimes you just don't want to show your face. And
Yeah.
a lot of the people who became coaches, they have no background in business.
Yeah.
They don't people. I mean, I taught Richcraft, which was very a woo as a spiritual container, and quite frankly, it was the container that my soul crafted as my body was getting ready to carry and carried my daughter. So
Yes.
it was born out of me raising my frequency to bring my daughter into being. So it was a very
Yes.
sacred container, and I'm still so grateful for all of you that were in there. But what I realized is that between the attention mining and, like, the time that's required, the content that's required, we're going to lose a lot of good people in this kind of flood if again, if we don't build a boat. So the boat is like, how do people come together and create more agency for each person,
Mhm.
like each individual? And so our answer has been to form this creative collective. We
Mm.
have a bunch of non-competing coaches. Like, they all stand very firmly in their complementary but um not like competitive
Yeah.
niches,
Yeah.
but they all have something that an entrepreneur or an organization can need and benefit from, like,
Like a
or that you
facet.
need somewhere, yeah, like, in the journey. So, like, we say it's body, being, and business. And so, like, we have me and, like, the tech people that are doing all the, like, strategy stuff, like, get your messaging together, get your tech together, get your content creation together and organized. And now we're
Yeah.
moving very aggressively into SEO, content creation, and those kinds of things. So you aren't
Mhm.
relying on your face. For those of us that are getting on in years and don't feel like doing this all the time, or, like, for me, I have a new baby and I don't want her to not recognize me without having a full face of makeup on. Like, I want to just be a bum many days of the week.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really interesting. It's like, yes, you need to be putting out possibly, I don't know, a minimum of 4 blogs a month, but it'd be better if you were putting out, like, 12. Big companies are putting out hundreds of pieces of content
Wow.
every day,
Yeah.
right? So how do you keep up with that? Is it that you become, because a lot of these programs that I find for coaches, they just teach you how to become something else. They're like, take my program so you can hit 6 figures or 7 figures, and you get in and you realize it's a digital marketing program and you don't want to be a digital marketer, you want to be a coach. So
Mhm,
like now
mhm.
you have all this knowledge. I've seen so many coaches who become, this is why everyone became a business coach.
Yes.
Like people started off with human design, now they're business coaches. They started off with astrology and now they're business coaches. They were doing Reiki and now they're business coaches because they took all these programs that taught business strategy and they're so invested that now they don't know how to teach anything else. So they just have to reteach the stuff that they just spent $20,000, $40,000 on just to get their investment back. It's like they're not, but they'd never really run real businesses other than online. They hadn't run brick and mortar. They hadn't done sales. So
Okay.
we've kind of come together and everybody has their own sector. We have a couple of people who work in somatics. You know, my business partner, Mariah, we're
Yeah.
heavy into somatics
Yeah.
and clearing stagnant energies from the body as a way to increase your efficacy as a
Yes.
business person.
Yes.
But we have another woman who's a medical medium, and I work with her as like to keep myself from being just a burnt out boss, keep my physical systems
Yes.
cleared out and like functioning really optimally and to just be held. We have somebody who teaches people how to create their group programs so that their retreats so that they're really transformative and powerful and not just thrown together
Mhm.
because you want to hold a retreat and you've never done it and you're just kind of flying by the seat of your ass.
Yeah.
So it's just like all of these women coming together, and because we're together, we can hit all of these milestones. We have the agility of a corporation,
Yes. Yes.
small
Yes.
of a small business, maybe. We have the
Yeah.
agility of a small business,
Yeah.
but we're still individuals. And to me, I think that is the answer. I think the life raft is going to come when the coaches who remain realize, oh, my mission is more important than my ego. I don't have to be the belle of the ball. I can share the space. I can share the
Mhm.
burden. I can share the hardship, and I can share this whole ease and flow thing if there are other people to help. So
Right.
I think that's the move for people who are in the middle. And honestly, I think that's the move for the middle class period. I think that in all places of life, if the middle class, quote, air quotes, middle class is going to survive what's happening, we're going to have to reconstitute the village.
So you're saying like collabs, relationships, referral processes, that kind of thing. Networking,
Yeah,
sort of using a traditional term.
yeah, definitely. But I think with us, at least in our agency, we're all under one roof. Like we
Yes.
are, we're an
Right.
entity
So
together. And
you're
so,
a wraparound actualization agency as a wraparound service. It just,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
awesome.
it's comprehensive support for our clients, but it's also comprehensive support for us,
Nice. Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's
Oh, that's
very much like
awesome.
it's me. Integrity is the thing. It should be the same thing on the inside as on the outside, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes. That is the
yeah,
congruence
and we've
piece.
learned
Yeah.
a lot. It's taken us 2 years to pull that together, and our hope is really that at some point in the next year or two, we'll be helping other groups of people figure out how to come together and create
Mm.
coaching collectives and consulting collectives like this, so that
Mm.
the people who really are powerful can not just survive but thrive
Yes.
in this very demanding environment.
You said earlier, not everyone has what it takes. What do you really feel is sort of at the core of what it takes?
To be an entrepreneur, to be a successful entrepreneur, oh, being a successful entrepreneur, it's not like being a successful doctor or a successful lawyer. When you are in traditional fields, there is a pre-existing mechanism that you get to lean on,
Yes.
right? A doctor has the support of the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industrial industry,
Yeah.
the engineering, all the parts that go
All of these
into all those industries.
structures.
Yeah, they're part of a mechanism, and it's going to keep turning, and it has every reason to support you
Yes.
because you're a part of it.
Yeah.
If you decide you're like some kind of transformational person who is already dealing with perhaps a lot of unseen, right? Whether that's feelings or
Yes.
thoughts or energies, there's not a structure there to support you.
Yeah.
right? I mean, there is, but it's in the intangible.
Yeah, that's what I tell people, like the structures that support are like, you have to build an internal structure. Yeah.
Very much, you have to build internal structure. So this is why like somatics for CEOs is really, really important. People ask, I get questioned a lot, is like, Leah, how are you doing all this? How do you hit multi six figures when you are on bed rest and like in and out of the hospital? You know, like how have you managed to put together an agency as a side project of the business you are already building when you have a special needs teen and an aging parent and now you know, a demanding 1-year-old without losing your mind? And of course the real answer is I lose my mind periodically, number one. That definitely happens. But if I hadn't put so much into regulating my nervous system,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do anything. And so when I say not everyone has what it takes, I mean a couple of things. I mean, not everyone has the nervous system that can withstand the stresses of entrepreneurship. And if
Yes.
you're going to invest, you got to invest in infrastructure. And yes, that's tech and training and team, right? But it's also nervous system regulation.
Absolutely.
So all of that infrastructure, if you're going to be able to stay in this very grueling game of entrepreneurship. And this is why I talk so much endless shit about the programs that overcharge and they don't give you any of those things. It's like if you have only 25 grand to invest in your business and you get in a program and all that program does is tell you what you need to get, and what you need to get costs $25,000, your business is tanked, like you're done.
Yeah.
Right? I would rather people come to someone who will say, here's what you need, here's what I think it's going to cost, and here's how long it'll probably take. Do you want to make this investment? And that's the difference between most coaches, is that they don't want to ask you, they don't want to give you informed consent. They don't want to risk you saying no to their program by telling you what it will and won't do. And so we are, on the other hand, we try and lay it all out and be like, this is what we're going to do. You want to get on board.
Right. Like what's actually required? What does the path actually look like? Not just like glittery outcomes, but here's what the real work is.
Here's where the real work is. Yeah. And a lot of people just they don't want to. A lot of people don't really want to work. And I was saying before we jumped on that I'm like, I don't know if I'm the coach for anyone that's under 35. I just really don't. Because there's like a generational expectation, you know, when I think about our parents played, do you remember the like sticks? Like, do you remember what dolls used to be? Like a doll, it was like a dried out apple husk and they stuck it on a stick and then they like put buttons on, they put a sock over its head and then they put buttons. And then they put a little outfit on and they just like hopped around as a doll. And then like there's this generation of people who've been born and everything is so gratifying. Everything is beep, beep, beeps. And it, on a neurological level, they've gotten so addicted to reward. Like their brain literally hasn't been bored ever. And so anything that doesn't lead to a quick beep, 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 or a flash of light or a vibration that they can
fall
feel
apart
in their little hand, and they're like, this isn't working. And I'm like, no, it's work. It is working, but the rewards are really
they're extended.
They're spaced out.
Yes. That's right. That's right.
So it's I think that's the other thing, is that we have to recondition. We have to consciously choose what kind of humans we're going to be, because there are so many superstructures in place right now that are designed to make us just one type of human. And some people just want to go the path of least resistance. And those people should honor that about themselves. They should be honest about it and they should honor it. And then they should go work for someone else. There's nothing wrong with working for someone else. Everyone needs good employees. No entrepreneur can accomplish what they accomplish without good employees. Find a mechanism, a movement that you can be a part of and become a part of it. But don't tell yourself that you want to be an entrepreneur and then beat yourself up when you realize all that comes with. Just because some of my most successful relationships with clients have ended with them not being entrepreneurs,
Has ended
which
with
a
them
lot of coaches wouldn't
deciding
say.
that they're not going to do it.
Sometimes they realize, oh shit, this is what it takes. I don't want to do this.
Wow.
I
Amazing.
don't want to do this. I want to go back to, like, I want to go work for my parents' business, or I want to go back to my 9 to 5, or like whatever it is. And it's
Yes.
like, okay, how can we find a beautiful way for you to go back to your 9 to 5? How can we find a beautiful way for you to be a part of your family business? Like, there's also this kind of like shame of, if you can't be an entrepreneur, there's something wrong with you. But entrepreneur is not a title you can just take. It's a personality type, and either you're going to cultivate those characteristics, or
Yes.
you should find something else that's a better fit, because
Yes.
simply everyone is not meant for this.
You have to fucking love it because it comes with a particular shit sandwich. Right?
It's like being a parent. I got pooped on so many times this week because we were potty training. Like, I got pooped on in a pool. I'm the Dr. Seuss of getting pooped on this week. I got pooped on in a bus. Like, I get pooped on. I don't fuss. Like, I get pooped on. Yes, I do. I get pooped on. How about you? Like, this is parenting. It's easy to want the pictures with the kids with the bows,
Right.
right?
The peak
And then I've got my
moments.
teenager who craps on me metaphorically, like, I'm just getting shit on all week because I'm a parent. And it's just, that's the job. It's the same thing with entrepreneurship.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Leah, this was just magical. Thank you so much for coming on today, for making the time out of your very busy work and momming schedule. I love ending the year with you this way.
Thank you for making time. You're burning things up. It's always a joy to like watch your beautiful trajectory and all the wonderful work that you do. I am ever impressed.
Thank
Just
you.
to like talk about you for a second, I'm ever impressed with like the substance that you carry and that you bring, and the work that you do in a field that for the last couple of years has almost ignored substance.
Thank you for helping me develop that. Yeah, it's been
Thank
amazing.
you for sticking in there, man. Like, you're amazing. So I'm like, look, you can talk to me anytime. Like, I will make time always to come talk to you because you nourish my soul just so deeply every time. So thank you for the work that you do in the world, and thank you for having me.
Yay!